Okay, so you guys sent in some documents about this new city, Mulberry, in Georgia. And wow, this one's a doozy.
Yeah, this one's got it all.
It does. We're talking lawsuits, controversial laws, residents who feel like they're getting the runaround.
Classic case of local control, but with some serious question marks.
Yeah, and right off the bat, you've got Gwinnett County taking the state of Georgia to court over this new city like it's a brawl at a barbecue.
And at the heart of it, that law, SB 333, the one that basically birthed Mulberry.
Right, SB 333. And Gwinnett's saying, hold on a minute, this law is about as welcome as a skunk at a picnic. They're calling it unconstitutional.
Which is a pretty bold move, basically saying the state overstepped its bounds.
Yeah, and looking at what you highlighted for us, it seems like they might have a point. This law really backs Mulberry into a corner, like forcing them to handle all the zoning and code enforcement themselves.
Which is unusual, right? In Georgia, most new cities get to choose if they want to take that on or let the county handle it.
Right, it's usually an option. But not for Mulberry. SB 333 says, nope, you're doing it all.
And then there's the kicker, no property taxes.
Oh, yeah, that little detail. That's like the dream, right? No property taxes. Sign me up.
Yeah.
But it also makes you wonder, how can they actually run a city without that income?
Exactly. Gwinnett County is using that too. They're saying that this no property tax thing is probably unconstitutional and that it might have been like a shiny object to distract voters,
Yeah.
get them to say yes to Mulberry without really understanding the whole picture.
Oh, interesting. So it's like, hey, look over here, free candy.
Yeah.
Well, they're slipping in something else.
Exactly. And that makes you wonder who is really driving this whole Mulberry thing and what they hope to gain.
Speaking of feeling misled, we also have this resident, Stephen Hughes. He filed his own lawsuit against the county.
This is where it gets even juicier.
Right. Hughes claims the county wasn't exactly upfront about a lot of things, zoning those property taxes we talked about, even how the city's charter, like the rule book, could be changed.
He's basically saying they were sold a bill of goods.
Yeah, a lot of promises that may or may not be legally possible.
It's like buying a used car, you think you're getting a great deal, but then bam, hidden fees everywhere.
Right. Suddenly that no down payment promise comes with a catch.
Exactly. And in this case, Hughes argues that some of those catches, like the restrictions on property taxes and the city charter, might actually prevent Mulberry from functioning as the city should.
It's almost like they were set up to fail, or at least set up to be highly dependent on the county still.
It raises the question of, what were the motivations behind creating Mulberry in the first place? It's rarely as simple as just, oh, we want to control growth.
Right. You got to think there's more to it than meets the eye, especially with a county as large and established as Gwinnett battling this out in court. You'd think they'd have bigger things to worry about than a little city like Mulberry.
Well, and that's the thing, right? The creation of a new city, it disrupts the existing power structure. So even if it is about growth control, it's also about influence, about who gets to make decisions about resources and development.
And let's not forget about the potential impact on voting patterns. A new city can shift the political landscape.
Absolutely. It can change everything. So, yeah, while growth control might be the official reason, there are always other factors at play, things that aren't always discussed in those town hall meetings.
So we've got these potential legal issues with the way Mulberry was formed. We've got residents feeling misled and unheard. And then there's this email from Lindsay Webb, talk about a frustrated citizen. She really lays out her concerns in detail.
And what's striking is that she's not just complaining. She's actively trying to engage with the process, attending meetings, doing her own research.
Right, she clearly cares deeply about her community. And she's raising some serious red flags. She even suggests that some officials might be intentionally working against Mulberry, that there are conflicts of interest at play.
Which, we can ignore that kind of allegation,
Yeah.
especially when it comes from someone who's clearly invested in the well-being of their community.
Right, and this is where it gets really interesting, but she mentions this archaeology report.
This archaeology report, yeah, Lindsay hints that it contains some explosive information that could contradict what certain officials have been saying about the area.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like she drops this bombshell and then poof. We don't have the actual report, just Lindsay's word that it contradicts the official narrative, which is kind of a cliffhanger.
Right. It's like in those documentaries where they're like, and what they found next would shock the world.
Exactly. And you're left thinking, wait, what did they find? So we're all left kind of speculating here.
So what could it be? What could an archaeology report reveal that would have folks in Mulberry all riled up?
Well, these things can be a big deal. We're not talking just like some old pottery shards here.
Oh.
Archaeology can unearth all the sorts of things that can seriously impact development plans, environmental concerns, you name it.
Okay, so like what? Give me an example.
Well, for one, imagine they find evidence of, say, Native American burial grounds.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that would change things. Right. Suddenly you're dealing with sacred land and development becomes a whole lot more complicated. Or maybe they uncover a site of historical significance that needs to be preserved.
Which could throw a wrench into someone's plans for that land.
Exactly. And remember, this is all speculation, but the point is, depending on what this report says, it could have huge implications for zoning for property values, for Mulberry's ability to even function as a city.
Especially since they're now in charge of all that zoning and development. If this report throws them a curveball, it could be a financial disaster. And suddenly that no property tax promise might not seem so appealing.
Exactly. It just adds another layer of complexity to an already tangled web. And it brings us back to those fundamental questions of transparency and accountability. Lindsay and all the residents of Mulberry, they deserve clear answers about what this report reveals and how it will affect their community.
Absolutely. It's like we've uncovered this whole hidden layer of intrigue in a story that already had more twists and turns than a back road in the Appalachians.
It reminds you that even in a process that seems on the surface pretty straightforward, like creating a new city, there are always deeper currents at play, competing interests, hidden agendas, unforeseen consequences.
So to our listeners out there, we say this: stay curious, stay informed, and don't be afraid to ask the tough questions. Because as we've seen with Mulberry, sometimes the most important stories are the ones that people are trying hardest to keep buried.
And who knows, maybe someday we'll get our hands on that archaeology report and finally uncover the truth behind Mulberry's hidden history.
That's all the time we have for today, but trust us, this story is far from over.